Talk about slavery. It exists wherever men are bought and sold, wherever a man allows himself to be made a mere thing or a tool, and surrenders his inalienable rights of reason and conscience. Indeed, this slavery is more complete than that which enslaves the body alone. I never yet met with, or heard of, a judge who was not a slave of this kind, and so the finest and most unfailing weapon of injustice.
Henry David Thoreau was thought of as an individualist anarchist. He believed in small government. He wanted improved government, and in his utopian mind, he preferred zero government. I remember Ronald Reagan saying once that government is not the solution to the problem, but that government is the problem. And I've started to wonder if President Reagan read the writings of Henry David Thoreau.
But to speak practically as a citizen, unlike those who call themselves non-government men, I ask for not at once no government, but at once a better government. The progress from an absolute to a limited monarchy, from a limited monarchy to a democracy, is a progress toward a true respect for the individual. It is a democracy such as we know it, the last improvement possible in the government. Is it not possible to take a step further towards recognizing and organizing the rights of man? There will never be a really free and enlightened state until the state comes to recognize the individual as a higher and independent power, from which all its own power and authority are derived, and treats him accordingly. An efficient and valuable man does what he can, whether the community pay him for it or not. The inefficient offer their inefficiency to the highest bidder and are forever expecting to be put into office.
Henry David Thoreau's philosophy of civil disobedience inspired leaders such as Leo Tolstoy, Mahatma Gandhi, and Martin Luther King Jr.
Disobedience is the true foundation of liberty. The obedient must be slaves. I think that we should be men first and subjects afterwards. It is not desirable to cultivate a respect for the law so much as for the right. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote, I became convinced that the non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. No other person has been more eloquent and passionate in getting this idea across than Henry David Thoreau. As a result of his writings and personal witness, we are the heirs of a legacy of creative protest.
After John Brown's raid at Harper's Ferry, abolitionists in the North tried to distance themselves from Brown's actions. This was disgusting to Thoreau, who wrote a speech entitled A Plea for Captain John Brown. And the abolitionists in the North found Thoreau's speech persuasive, and they started to back Captain Brown in his actions. By the time the Civil War had begun, the armies of the North we're singing John Brown's praises.
You must love the crust of the earth on which you dwell more than the sweet crust of any bread or cake. You must be able to extract nutrients out of a sand heap. You must have so good an appetite at this, else you will live in vain. Hope and the future for me are not in lawns and cultivated fields, not in towns and cities, but in the impervious and quaking swamps. The earth is not a mere fragment of dead history, stratum upon stratum like the leaves of a book, to be studied by geologists and antiquarians chiefly, but living poetry like the leaves of a tree, which precede flowers and fruits, not a fossil earth, but a living earth. This winter they are cutting down our woods more seriously than ever. Thank God they cannot cut down the clouds. Each town should have a park, or rather a primitive forest of 500 or 1,000 acres, where a stick should never be cut for fuel, a common possession forever, for instruction and recreation. If a man walks in the woods for love of them half of each day, he is in danger of being regarded as a loafer. But if he spends his whole day as a speculator, sharing off those woods and making earth bald before her time, he is esteemed as industrious and enterprising citizen, as if a town had no interest in its forests but to cut them down.